Hey folks, JodoCast again, and this time we're going to be having a look at, I know I don't normally do unboxings, but this is something a little special, which I've been excited about getting, and it has just arrived, and it is the JSPB Pro kit. So the kit has just arrived. I've had a quick look at it to see what's involved and included, and so I'm going to be putting one of these together, and thought I'd do a little video on it so I can show you guys what it's comprised of, how it goes together, and we can stumble through it together. For those of you that wish to purchase a kit also and assemble it, I thought it might be handy to actually have some visual reference as to what goes what, how you attach what where, etc. So we will skip through a lot of this, but the majority of it, you know, the things that I find are important or that may be a little tricky or what have you, we'll slow down and show you so that it can make, if you're following along to build one of your own, then it'll make things a little easier for yourself as well. First thing I did want to point out is that now it would appear that you've got two of these front sections. Very strange. How come they've included two of these front sections? Now, in having a look at this second one that was separate from the rest of the box, it says, read me first, upgrade. Okay, so this is an upgrade. There's an upgraded seal in there for the pump section, and there's an upgraded pump head in there, as well as the upgraded front grip section, which you can see a couple of quick differences between the details here. It's a little bit thinner, not as solid through here. See, this is much plainer, but thicker and more solid. Yeah, a few little differences. You can see it like in the profile there, as opposed to the profile there. You can see it's the newer one is a thicker, more heavy-duty version with a few less sort of decorative pieces and what have you. So I'm going to be using the little bit more solid one, the upgraded bits. So all right, we'll start at the beginning and go through and been through the parts checklist to make sure that everything that is necessary is there, and we'll go through the different steps one by one and do each section, show you the instructions, show you the actual parts being glued together, so you can get an idea of what the procedure is. All right, we'll get set up and I'll be back shortly and we'll start doing this mod guide. Okay, so the first section we're doing is this little spacer. This is to use your sandpaper, give you a piece of pipe a little bit of a clean up, punch the center out of this little piece here, and then basically glue it onto the center of that short section of pipe using a two-part epoxy which comes with the kit. There's not much that isn't supplied with this. Then once that's centered, then your next step is to, actually it doesn't, you don't glue that into place, you just slip it into the middle. And then the next step is to glue it into place on these two, the two elbows. So all right, we will go about doing that. Let's just clean up this bit of pipe and see where we go from there. All right, so first things first, we'll punch that section out of the middle there, like that. Give the edges of the pipe a bit of a clean up as it's suggested. And I'm just giving it where the glue is going to sit a light scuff, just to make sure that that glue adheres properly to it. Now, with these it shouldn't matter, they're 6 of one, half a dozen the other. It just depends on what you sort of want to present at the tops and bottoms sort of thing. So I'm going to kind of want the plain ones to be top and bottom, so I'm going to put the patterned sections together, which will basically become the stock part. So just give the inside of this a little bit of a tickle up. Okay, so the tickets that I'll be putting together, get that piece out of the way. Alright, so essentially all we have to do is put this into place on the middle there. I might actually just give the edge of this a quick tickle up as well. Being a 3D printed part, it's alright, so we'll mix up some of this 2-part epoxy. It's supposed to be a 1-to-1 mix, so you put even parts of the 2 different components. And give the 2 a mix. I'll put a bead around one end, put a bead around the other end. Try and get a good bead all the way around so that you get a nice even adhesion, because this is supposed to be airtight as well, so you want to make sure that you haven't got air gaps caused by a lack of adhesive in any particular area. So just making sure we get a nice even bead around both sides. Alright, now starting to one side, other side, give it a little bit of a twist along the way. Put them on the bench, make sure that they are perfectly level and pushed together properly. Now I've got just a slight bit of glue coming out from the gap there, so as the instructions recommend, you just use a small piece of paper and just give that a wipe just to get rid of the excess. Alright, so there's our first part done. Then we'll be on to page 3. Okay, so on to the next part of the build. Now, what I've deciphered this to mean is to use your sandpaper to get any burred edges off so that it's nice and clean. That's what I've deciphered that to mean. Alright, so what we need is the 26 centimetre length and this orange piece, which are these two here. Now I've already gone and prepared the lengths and given the pieces a clean with a bit of sandpaper so they're ready to glue. So all we need to do is apply some glue to this end and then glue that into that orange piece. So we'll just get a coating of glue around the outside edge there, flip this over and it goes in that side there. Just give it a bit of a twist in there just to make sure we've got a good coating of glue all the way around. That is seating in there nicely. And then I'll just go around and wipe the excess off with a tissue. Now the only other thing I did need to mention is you'll see here on this picture there's a dot pictured towards the far end away from the gluing section. So you'll notice that this 26 centimetre length has got a dot on one end, so that goes at the far end away from where you're gluing it into the orange piece. So we'll put that aside and let that one cure. The next section we've got is this section here. So the 3 pieces there. Now again, I've prepared them all, given them a sand and everything, ready to glue together. So we just need to apply some glue to this section here. So we'll just give that a coat of glue. Now that goes through this section. So we'll give it a twist as we go through, just to get the glue coated nicely all the way through. And then it protrudes a little short section which will then fit into here. Okay, so that's all the way through, and again we'll just remove the excess glue. Okay. So all the excess glue is removed. So again we'll put that aside and let the glue cure there. Alright, and the last section is this 26.5 centimetre length. So we need these pieces here, a couple of O-rings, the 26.5 mm length, centimetre length, and we'll glue that together. Some glue around this end here, so I'll put some glue on around that end. Get a nice smear right around that end. And then that pushes into this little cap here. Okay, it's in there nice and tight. And then I'll just wipe off the excess. Okay, so with the glue wiped off, now there's an O-ring seal that goes around the end of it, which is one of the large O-rings that comes in the kit. So that goes around there like so. I'll put that aside for a second for glue to cure, and then the other O-ring goes in this piece here. It goes in this top section there. Okay, and now we're on to the next part, which is basically just assembling, whoops there, knocking things over, which is basically just assembling these bits in said formation, which essentially just means putting that over there. And get in there. You can see that's going to be fun, isn't it? Okay. And then you've got the handle section, so this end gets glued into the handle T. So I think we're probably going to need to mix more glue, and we'll just quickly do that bit too. Okay, so we just got a little bit of glue around there, so that needs to go into the T handle here. We'll give it a twist as we push it in, and you just push that down hard against the surface so that it's flush on that side, and then again we'll go and we'll just clean up the excess glue. Alright, now all we have to do is screw the front part of the pump grip together onto the handle. So we'll screw these two bits together, and that's the pump rod finished. So we'll do that, we'll be back in one sec. Okay, so that's the pump grip, pump handle finished. So the next step is we need to lubricate the O-ring and the actual rod itself, and the O-ring in the back here as well. So we'll put a bit of lubricant on those, and then the next step is to actually insert it into this 25 centimetre external rod. So we'll do that. Put that together. Just inserts in there and slides in, and then that will pressure fit into there. Pressure fit into there nice and snug, and there's our front section of our pump assembly done. Okay, so the next step in the assembly is pretty easy. It's these little valves, just assembling the two valves. Now, what I should have mentioned earlier is with the kit, we got that little notice about the upgraded parts, if you remember me showing you that earlier. Now this is where it sort of comes into play, because we're using, this is one of the upgraded parts, and actually in fact the pump head was an upgraded part as well. So that was used in the last section. Oh, speaking of the devil, there it is there. So you've got the replace the piston head and the R1 seal in the valve. So now we're up to the valve section. So I've put aside the parts that are needed. The O-rings were already on the upgraded section, and I've got the O-ring there for the for the other one. Alright, so we'll assemble that as per the diagram. It's pretty straightforward. That's the other thing, that was these little seals. These white seals are an upgraded part as well. So as you can see, all we need to do is just get the smiley face down, your spring goes in the middle, and there's actually a little locator post in the bottom there for the spring to sit on. Then the ball goes in, and we've got our washer. Ball goes in, then your washer, and then the headpiece. Now it's just banging in with a hammer. I'm just going to pressure fit it as best I can. And anyway, so there you go, that's the one valve assembled. And the next one, according to the instructions, we got the spring goes in and the ball, so spring and the ball, and the upgraded seal washer. Just push that down in onto the ball, like so. And then you get your O-ring, goes onto the lip, this section here, and that goes O-ring down, whoops, goes into there, like so, and gets hammered in flush, which was pretty easy. So there you go, that's in there flush. Alright, so there's the two valve sections assembled. Next is to mark these couple of pieces, 2 centimeters in, 17 centimeter length, and the R1, which is the one with the double O-ring visible now. So we'll mark 2 centimeters up those, and then we'll flip the page to the next part. Okay, so the idea with the marking out the 2 centimeters from the end on each of the two pieces, as we just did, is that they get glued in to this section that we built originally, and they go in to each side 2 centimeters in. So we will mix up some epoxy and we'll glue these two pieces into the pipe. Okay, so there's those two sections glued in and up to the line, so 2 centimeters in each, and I've cleaned up the excess glue, so they're ready just to leave sit now, and after 10 minutes I can do a test, slide the pump on, pump it up and see if we're doing that. So I'll let that sit for 10 minutes and then we'll come back and we'll give it a test to make sure it's all sealed properly. Okay, so the last section was just to give it a test and make sure that it's leaking air from the correct spot. You're supposed to give it a couple of quick pumps and see if it releases the air from that point rather than losing it out the other points. So let's give that a quick test and make sure that it's operating the way it should. So if we go, put thumb over there. Yep, so that is working as it should. So the pump section's done, so we can move on. Okay, the sticker wraps, we'll come back and do those bits because I'm actually hoping to use something a bit different. Okay, so the next bit is to move on to this front section with the O-ring placement. Alright, so now this is again the additional piece that was supplied. This is the thicker, stronger one. Now in these places at the front there's actually a channel, as you can see in there. Okay, so yeah, let's start with the little tiny one. Little tiny one goes in this little front location here. Oops, don't drop it. Okay, one of the large ones goes inside this channel. But not impossible. Back one's going to be a bit more fun. I might need 2 hands for this one. And then the last O-ring to go into place is this big one, which basically just drops in place down the back here. And I'll get this other one in place and we'll come back. It won't be a sec. Okay, so alright, so there's all the O-rings in place there on that front section. So that's that section done. We move on to the next bit now. Like I said, we're going to do the vinyl wrap bits later on. So now we've got our R2 valve, which is this one here. No Star Wars reference, R2D2. And that goes into this joiner piece, which is this bit here. Gets the smiley face end gets glued in. So that end goes into there and it pushes in through the O-ring section until it's flush with the back of this section here. So let's mix up a small bit of epoxy and we'll smear that round, get that in and get it into position. Alright, I'll just mix some epoxy. We'll back in 1 second. Okay, so we've got some epoxy mixed up. We'll put a layer around the smiley face end of this, push that into the joiner and then get it into place on the handle. Won't be 1 second. Okay, so we've got that glued in, and just wipe the excess off with a tissue, just wipe it clean. And then that will fit into here, go through that O-ring and push into place and give us a flush fitting there. It's actually, I think, due to the O-ring that it's sitting just slightly above flush. Oh, smiley face. Are you happy with the progress? Yeah, we're happy. Okay. Losing my mind. I've been sniffing to glue too much. Okay, alright, so we're on to the next section, which looks like screwing that back section on and maybe a bit of a test type scenario by the looks of it. Alright, so we've got this back section which has got your 3 screw holes in it, which will line up with your 3 screw holes there, and 3 of the small screws. So we'll screw that into this, and then we'll look at getting our pump section together and giving it a bit of a test. Okay, so we've got the pump and what have you assembled as it is in the picture there to test. So we're going to test, so 1, 2, 3, and then we push on the little trigger mechanism thing at the front and okay. Okay, so the next section is to glue this 10.5mm essentially spacer piece on. Then slip the upper section over the pipe, and then finally this end piece goes on and all gets glued together, so you end up with this type of assembly. Alright, so I need to mix up some more glue, so I'll do that and be back. Okay, alright, so I've mixed up some glue. So first things first, we'll put a little bit on the tube here to slide this 10.5 centimetre spacer on. So we'll put that on there and then slide that into place first. Actually, we may as well do it all in one hit. Then this spacer section goes on, or the back of the front trigger grip section goes on, and then finally you get this front section slips on once you put this on, you put a bit of glue around the front of that and then slip it on together, and it all becomes one solid piece. So I'll do that and be back in one second. See what I did there? Okay, I'll glue these into place and be back in 1 second. Okay, so there we are. So you've got the spacer section there glued on, then the back of the front section, and then of the hand grip section, and then this valve piece, as per the diagram there. Alright, so what's our next step? Next step is vinyl wrap. Yeah, that can all be done later, no biggie. Vinyl. Okay, alright. This piece here at the top. So, oh yeah, look, here we go. And then you've got your trigger assembly, and well, okay, it looks like that's all there is left to do. So we might grab this top tube and do this little valve assembly at the back here. Grab the piece that clips onto where your trigger goes and do the assembly there. And then we can go about putting it all together. So I think we're nearly there. Alright, let's grab this top rail and do this bit here. Alright, so we've got the pieces we need to assemble this back valve piece. So first thing is this large O-ring goes into the back of the tube here, like so. Then we've got an O-ring that fits into a recess. There's a recess on the lid there, so the O-ring fits into that. So I'll push. So that's the O-ring in there. Then there's a large and a small screw. So this goes into place here. And then there's this piece that goes underneath it. And there's a large screw goes through the pivot. Tighten that up. And then your small screw goes through into that locator section there to align that. Put that screw into place. And okay, so it's in place there. Alright, so there we got here's your dart loading section there, and the little door seal section. So that's that section done. And the other section was the trigger assembly. So we've got the trigger assembly here and the trigger. Okay, so what we have to do for this front trigger assembly is clip this piece onto the front. So this piece goes in here like so. So there you can see there's a screw hole there above the little trigger pin. So we put a small screw in there just to hold that into place. Okay, so we've got the little screw in place there. And then now the trigger piece goes in and gets screwed into place up front here. So I'll grab the long screw and we'll put that through into place. I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so now there's that screw is through there, so that front trigger assembly is screwed into place to press the pin. Alright, now so we've got that front assembly done, that back assembly done, so now we'll put all the relevant pieces together and then we can put this screw through to join the pump grip on. So we'll do that. So we've got this piece, and it looks like there's going to be a particular assembly order. So this will have to go through here. So it would appear to sit in place like such. And so now we'll pass that into the full grip section and then we'll put the pump part on last. So this will go in. Okay, so it slides into place like that. This will only slide in to this front section a certain distance and then it stops, and that's sort of where it locates. So that's that section. So what we'll do is we'll put the 3 screws in here to hold it all together, and then we'll look at putting the bottom pump section on. I'll just put these screws in place. Okay, so what I did was I've actually used 2 of the longer screws in these bottom 2 either side, and then the short screw in the top there. And there we go, so short screw in the top and longer screw in either side there to hold that section together. Now we'll get the pump section on and fix it into place here. Okay, so there's the pump section in place as well, screwed in there as well. So now we're pretty much done. The next section would appear to be the rifling section for the barrel. Just notice this section here too. So once you got your barrel in place and your back section, you put a couple of the small screws through these holes at the top to obviously hold them in place. As it shows in a little diagram there, you do them up sort of snug enough to put some pressure on but not indent. So we'll do that as well, and we'll back shortly. I'll put those couple of little locator screws in top there just to hold the bits in place. Okay, now one thing I did find is that obviously because you have to dip the blaster forward to get your front dart to slide forward, you do need to have that rifling in place, otherwise your dart just falls straight out. So I've put that rifling in place. And the other thing I found is that obviously, having never used one of these before, you guys might already know this, but because of the pump style in it, you do actually have to pump it quickly, like quite hard and quick, to force the air in. You can't pump it slow, otherwise it will the air will leak back out through the O-rings. I'm finding. So I've got just the one dart in here, so we'll just give it a few pumps and see how she fares. So there we go. So that was, I think, 4 quick pumps, and it seems to be able to handle that fine. I'm looking forward to actually getting home and trying some Nerf darts in it to see how it goes in comparison. Alright, and as promised, I'm going to throw a few darts over the chroning and chroning this to see what sort of FPS it gets. I'm going to try the 3 different darts there. I've got a glow dart, and a normal elite dart, a zombie strike dart, and one of the solid red solid head ones. I can't remember what they're called, but anyway, we'll set the camera up. Alright, we'll go on the 3 pumps, so we'll try that and see what sort of FPS we're getting. So there you go, you can see the readings there. It's getting some decent FPS. That's just with 3 pumps. I don't think you'd really want to go over that. Alright, so here's my JSPB blaster all finished and assembled, and with a bit of the carbon fibre wrap there on. I think it's come up pretty good. It'll look even better once I get the red dot sight up the top there. Alright, so I'm going to do a range test on the new JSPB blaster. 3 pumps with elite darts, and I've got one different one in the back there, so we'll level shots. We'll see how we go. 3 pumps. Okay, now let's see how far we got. Now one of my paces is about 3 feet, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. .34 paces. It's the first dart. 35, 36, 37, 38. To the next one. 39, 40. Oh, there it is. 41, 42. That dart. 42, 43, 44. 45 paces. So you can see back down there, that large box on the left there is where I was shooting from, where that big black box is. So as you can see, pretty good ranges. I've forgotten how many paces I said already. But yeah, multiply that by 3, and that will give you your foot range. So, there we go. Pretty ideal conditions in here. It's undercover, wind free. Here we are here. Cool. Okay, so in summing up, the JSPB blaster, it fires really well, gets good FPS. I'm slowly getting used to the system, the magazine system, and the procedures, etc. So yeah, overall it's a good little blaster. It wasn't terribly difficult to build. The only thing that, which, sorry heavy, but you would be stuffed, is the grip. It's very uncomfortable, even for my size hand, and I haven't got huge hands, so heavy, you would be stuffed, Bell. So yeah, look, it's very cuboid and rough edges and whatever that they do say in the instructions to sand that, which I'm probably going to have to do to try and smooth it off a little bit, because it is really quite uncomfortable as it is, and it is just a bit too small. Yeah, so that's my JSPB build. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and I will see you on the next mod.